This is the story of a speedrun aimed to celebrate the best part of Dune Awakening, the early game experience where you have to survive under harsh conditions, scrape equipment together to beat strong NPCs and research items by gaining intel. The idea of this run came to me when I was helping out a fellow who had troubles finding all the parts to build a thopter, where when I joined their servers, while I was waiting for both of us to be online at the same time, in about 2 evenings of playing, I quickly actually unlocked the thopter on my own. That sort of set me up to take on this idea of a challenge to see how quickly someone could build a thopter from creating a fresh character. The run begins in Haga Basin South, the starting area, where the game forces you to complete the main quest chain. The key here was doing missions in a sequence that optimizes walking distances and synergizes collecting resources with what items the quests ask you to craft at what time. In the early part of this segment of the run, I've quickly went to the center of the map where I can find the first trial of Aquil, which is a unique dreamlike mission experience that the characters have to go through in order to unlock key items for the game. Once I was done with that, I quickly traveled north to the trade outpost, and I settled with a small base there. I rapidly completed all the quests necessary, then took on both the quest to visit the wreck of the Alcyon, a large shipwreck, and also completed the quest for Derek, the plantologist, to unlock the plantologist skill tree, and to complete the later quest to visit the testing station. By now, having completed all of these tasks, I had the necessary resources and the quest to build my first sand bike, which allowed me to head out and cross north into the Vermilius Gap. Here, the second part of the run began. I had to find good gear, set up a new base and start collecting intel. The biggest hurdle is that I needed 340 intel in total to make a thopter, and at this stage I barely even had 100. In general, the game gives you about 5 intel points per level up, however you can visit key NPC locations to pick up intel files, and that's probably the best way to gather this much intel quickly. My plan was to do a lot of in and out hops to these outposts and stack my intel without having to fully clear objectives or to complete missions. However, I also wanted to get some XP, as passively I was hoping to get maybe 30-40 intel points just from leveling up. I immediately rotated to the west, glancing at a quick map I sketched out before the run. I picked up intel from a few locations, then accidentally confused myself and started to build on the wrong place. Luckily, I figured it out quickly and then started building in my favorite outcrop at the northern part of Vermilius Gap. I quickly hopped into a nearby testing station where I got the first item I really wanted, a Holtzman shield. Shields in Dune are an excellent way to ignore incoming damage from NPCs, as long as you can manage how many NPCs look at you at the same time. Even a low-level shield can allow you to face relatively high-level mobs for a while. I was ready. I quickly grabbed a few things from my base, and about 1.5 hours spent on the clock, I ventured out into Misataril, which most players don't even see for 30+ hours in the game. Here I took on the task of climbing to the top of the tower, as it had another secret stash. Luckily, it had a really nice sword I could use for the upcoming fights. The run here had a rocky part. I messed up the jump down from the tower and landed on the electric worm. Instant death. I managed to claim my loot back, sneaked around some NPCs to get access to the inside of the old electric station, and then died there once again. I finished clearing the site, claiming my main prize, key components I needed for building the thopter, and in ample quantities. I've had no reason to come back to this area again, which is great. I then rotated to clearing sandfly outposts, which is where I was planning to get all the remaining intel. These are quite tricky, but you can get away from most locations with the intel and some loot if you have a solid plan. This first outpost gave me an amazing drop, a Jew scythe, which I'll be using for the rest of the game to collect water, because I really need a huge volume of water for crafting. I continued on to collect more and more intel, crawling further and further to the north. I'm just going to emphasize here that all the footage you see in this area is still done with scavenger steel suit armor, which is really paper thin against NPCs of this level. It requires really diligent use of a shield, managing stamina and mitigating NPC crowds to survive in these scenarios. I have good weapons, but I'm always only 5 seconds away from death. I've had this rocky mountain to climb that I tried to shortcut on my way to the next outpost, and in doing so I picked up my bike not to leave it behind. This was a grave mistake, as once I got there and started fighting NPCs, at 2 hours and 30 minutes I made my first major mistake. I died, but with no respawn around, and then I had to walk back from my base again. Once I cleared that building as well, I visited another nice cave nearby with a hidden loot room. Interesting enough, I was looting ornithopter parts, but mostly just the utilities, which I didn't need for the challenge. I also decided to visit an Atreides outpost. This is an extremely tough location, considering that I was still primarily wearing, once again, the weakest armors available in the game. I died once, which sadly forced me to wait a whole minute to respawn, due to this location being considered a PvP site. But then I remembered that I had a nice shiny sniper rifle that I looted prior, and I could relatively safely clear the location in a few minutes. I still needed to clear another 4 sandfly outposts, but by now I had a good enough gear from looting the previous ones to finally change out some armor pieces. Only headgear and boots, but that gave me a huge boost to my combat abilities. By now I've basically had enough intel. As I turned east, I reached the rift and hopped into a traitor base to get another key component, ray amplifiers, needed to make high-level mining tool. This is how you can start farming aluminum. 3 hours and 40 minutes in, I finally had enough intel to unlock everything I needed. But instead of going home immediately, I knew I needed cobalt paste, so I ventured into the nearby rift's mine locations to stock up on crystals that I can refine in my base. I quickly expanded the base as I needed more floor space and more generators. Until now, I haven't actually had any significant need for steel. However, I did need it now to make the medium refineries. I also got great first use out of the scythe that I picked up earlier, to harvest a lot of water rapidly. It was time to get a lot of iron and carbon mined at that moment. So around the 4-hour mark, I finally made my Mark III mining tool, which I first used to more efficiently stack up some steel materials. Then, once it was all in queue, I could head out to get my first batch of aluminum. On the way back, I visited a local trading outpost to buy from the NPCs some industrial pumps. This was the final set of components needed to make the thopter construction happen. With the first refinery now working with a queue of 20 minutes worth of aluminum, I've headed out to farm even more complex machinery. I wanted to make a second medium refinery. The main time from now on will be just waiting for the aluminum refining process to happen, so making a second medium refinery was a solid way of cutting that time in half. By now I was also over-geared for this entire area, cutting down NPCs with single swings. I knew I still had to make quite a few more trips. I needed one more run for cobalt paste and some more for aluminum, all while the existing things were processing. This is a good, efficient use of time really. I was wondering if doing a buggy might be faster, but overall it's at least 45 minutes worth of processing time for the materials. And while with the buggy you can reduce your trips to a single pass, with the sand bike the amount you can bring home fits neatly into the scheduling for harvesting water and refining. With the buggy run I did on a previous attempt, I ended up being AFK for minutes at a time as there wasn't anything to do but to wait. I still ended up in the buggy run nearly half an hour slower than in this run. 2 more aluminum runs and finally I was ready to finish my thopter. But I made a huge mistake it seemed. I was short on science components to make a cockpit and also had to wait a bit more for aluminum. Then suddenly I realized that I've already crafted the cockpit, but I forgot to pull it out of the crafting station. I quickly headed to the roof and did the assembly there and then, finishing with 6 hours, 15 minutes and 16 seconds. Overall, I was very happy with this run. I'm sure by now you can also see that there was a lot of small things I've done that I could have skipped or things I could have done earlier to save time elsewhere. Obviously dying quite a few times didn't help much either, but I was happy that my deaths did not cause any significant delays except the one time up at the sandfly territory. I think anyone who wants to challenge this world record would need to be very tight and maintain high tempo for this endurance run. After all, I've spent 6 hours continuously at this. The key to success is long-term consistency on being focused, mitigating NPCs without any proper protection, and using mobility skills effectively. I'll leave this run as it is for now, happily, and let the community ponder if anyone wants to challenge my time. Thank you so much guys for watching. I hope you found it entertaining. You can find the original raw footage, the spreadsheet I used to track how many resources I needed for each step, the map sketches I've done to guide me in the descriptions. If you want to challenge the world record, I've created a category for this on speedrun.com. You will find the link in the description as well. Read the rules of the run and how to submit your time. I'll be keen to see if anyone posts their own run. Stay hydrated, don't dupe Solaris, and I'll see you guys another time. Bye!